And then okay. Why don't you hit your mic on so you're always on? Yeah. Yeah. That way we'll both show up in the screen here. All righty. I would like to call the Franklin Township Combined Historical Commission and Historical Architectural Review Board hybrid meeting to order at 7:07 p.m. on Tuesday, November 1st. In attendance are Paul Legacy, Lou Mandich, Chuck Phillips, Nan Latimer, Sarah Beth Kohat, Sally Gallagher, and I see, and also Jeff Eastburn. There are no members of the public present, and so I will assume there's no public comment. The first item on the agenda is the approval of the prior minutes from the meeting of August 8th, 2022. Are there any emendations, etc., to the meeting, to the minutes that you received?
Well, here this says August 2nd, and here that says August 8th. So
Yes, it does.
So I don't.
Thank you very
That's
much.
the only correction that I.
That's a rather important correction. It shouldn't be August 8th.
It shouldn't be. It should be August 2nd. Is that right?
Yeah, it should be August 2nd. Only the only reason I say it should be August 2nd is because, but let me look at the calendar. Because we meet on the first Tuesday, and there's no way the 8th could be a first Tuesday.
Well, that's right. It wouldn't be.
But now that we've got this mistake, I want to check it. So. No, we met on August 2nd.
Okay. So we just need to change that here on.
Yeah, I'll change
on
it
our
here.
agenda. That's all.
Right. Better I should make that mistake in the agenda than in the minutes.
Yeah, that's true.
Any other emendations, corrections, comments? Okay, hearing none, I would like to entertain a motion to approve the minutes.
I so move.
Do I have a second?
I'll second it.
Okay, so motion offered by Mr. Mandich, seconded by Mr. Phillips. All in favor of approving the minutes as submitted, please indicate by raising your hand or saying aye.
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 All right, I see that it's unanimous, so I will not ask for. All right, let's move on to the old business. The first topic on the continuing topic is updating historic resource surveys and PHMC data. And as with last month, there's nothing to report on this. Does anybody have any comments to make about that item?
I don't.
Okay, I'll move on then. The second item is the Churchill African Cemetery, which is a longstanding and active continuing topic. I would like to note that nothing has been happening of any significance at present. Right now, it seems that any significant site cleaning would start in February. I did not do poison ivy cleanup as I hoped, and now it's too late for that. Crystal Crampton sent me a Zoom note during the Hallowed Grounds meeting last month, and indicated that she had something to tell me by phone the following week, but I haven't heard from her, so I can't tell you what that is. But it sounded like good news, so I'm going to have to give her a little nudge to see if she can tell me anything further. Does anybody else want to make any comment about the Churchill African Cemetery?
Why would it be too late to do the poison ivy eradication?
I think that in terms of spraying it, it's no longer in an active growth state.
Oh, okay.
So I think it would be, putting herbicides on the ground out there for no good reason at this point.
Yeah, okay.
I could go in and try and cut some of the more significant visible vines, which are obvious even in winter. But that could be done anytime. And
Yeah, I didn't know you were thinking of spraying, so that makes sense.
I was thinking of doing some spot spraying.
Yeah.
I'm significantly allergic, so I'm not about to do any more hand cleanup than I have to.
No.
I will be quite a sight. So aside from that, I'll move on to the next item, which is other township cemeteries. There's nothing to report on this, but before leaving this topic, Jeff, would you like to speak at all to Mount Olivet, or leave that for another day?
If you have anything, young man, please feel free to mention it.
Well, at the moment, it's fairly straightforward. I would say I circulated some information about that volume concerning the church to everybody on the historical commission. It's an interesting volume, and I would say for the moment that we're exploring purchasing it for the township. So I hope that will happen. I think it would be an excellent addition to the materials the Historical Commission has, and we will have to do some investigation into protecting the volume properly, storing it properly. We did have some discussions actually with the Chester County History Center, which many of you probably know is the Historical Society. And they were not interested in making an acquisition at this time, mainly because they had a moratorium on acquisitions, and they were in a position where they would have been interested in revisiting the subject if the book was still available at the end of the year. So that was sort of an iffy question at best. Jeff, since I've been talking to you, do you want to add anything to that, or do you think I've covered it completely?
I don't remember if I had mentioned it to you or not, Paul, so this may be new news to you. I had been in contact with the owner of the book. He has been willing to come down on the price, not significantly, but $200. So we will be purchasing it. So we hope to mail the check out in the next day or two. And then hopefully in a week or so, we'll have possession of it.
Well, I'm pleased that we're going to be in that position. I think it'll be an interesting volume to have. And this would be an appropriate place for it.
Thank you for bringing it to our attention, Paul.
Well, you're welcome, Jeff. Thank you for dealing with the bookseller. Any questions or comments?
What, I must have missed it. What's the book about? Is it about Mount Olivet Church, or? I try and read what you said, but somehow that went over my head.
Okay, yeah, so what it is there was a sect known informally as the Plumberites, but also known as Christian Church, which established Mount Olivet Church in the 1850s. They did not originally establish themselves as a church in Franklin Township. Or what is now Franklin Township. They began in maybe the 1840s. I'm not sure. We'd have to look. In any case, they began out, I think, toward maybe Penn Township or Nottingham, and eventually settled here. I think they actually moved here when it was New London, so it was before 1852. And they were there through the rest of the century, but at some point in the early 1900s, they kind of petered out. And the church also became a school. It was one of the schools in the township. I was just sort of checking on the internet for information on the sect, which it's pretty easy to hit because they are known as Plumberites, and that's Plummerites.
Oh, okay. Probably named after a
After
man
one
named
of,
Plummer.
there's a couple plumbers who are involved with the church. And so I just happened on this book, and I realized what it was and what it pertained to. The description of the book actually did not mention Franklin Township. It mentioned New London and Nottingham or something. And so, but I was not pleased to see, that it was as pricey as it was. It had been in the low figures. I might have sprung for it myself and worried about what to do with it later. And so ultimately, I talked to Karen Marshall, and then I later who put me in touch with the Chester County History Center. Then I talked to Jeff as well. The book covers about the first, in detail, I guess, the first decade of their residence at the church, and then it has some later pages. It's according to the description online, there are 131 pages, which is a wrong number for a set of book pages. And of those pages, I would say more than 120 are devoted to church records of various sorts, either members or, and other aspects of church life. So it's a significant record, especially since it begins with the church's founding. So that part, the early part especially, is what is of interest.
I know there was some kind of a cleanup there, and before I moved down here, maybe 2002, 3, or 4.
Very, very early on in the, I think, at the very beginning of the Historical Commission's existence. Yeah, that's right.
Did it burn, or what happened to it?
I don't know. Jeff,
Okay.
You've lived here a long time. Do you know why the church became a ruin?
I do not, sir.
Yeah.
It predates me moving here. So that's back in the 80s.
Yeah, we've been here since about 86, but Jeff predates both of us. So,
Yeah.
Yeah, I was 76.
it had more substance to its walls when I first saw it. So it's in a kind of slow decay, which is unsurprising. But the cemetery is not in bad shape. So the other thing I would hope would be for some information on township residents and the people in the cemetery, but we really won't know until we see the volume.
So it was never like a Methodist church or anything like that?
No, in fact, I was looking for information online further. And apparently there's one fellow down in Alabama who was, I don't know if he was Presbyterian or Methodist, but he was including the Plumberites among the sects he was denouncing
Yeah.
as, I don't know if they were heretical or whatever, but
Oh, excuse me.
I was able to download a copy of his book or pamphlet, but I haven't yet searched through it for the exact sections where he specifies what's wrong with them. But they seem to have been, I don't know if, I get the impression that they were perhaps a less doctrinaire Christian sect. But I don't have a lot of information, and so I don't know. I couldn't tell you more than that. Anything else on the topic? Okay, then we'll move on to the Mason-Dixon Art Corner Connectivity Project. And aside from the fact that this is proceeding slowly to its first meeting, there's really nothing happening at present, but concurrently, you may have all seen that the state separated the Big Elk Creek section of White Clay Creek Preserve and created the Big Elk Creek State Park out of it. It's my understanding from not really minutes, but comments that were exchanged in online emails with London, Britain township members, that developing a sort of master plan for the Big Elk Creek section is going to be something of a priority. They are working on a master plan for the White Clay Creek Preserve, but now that they've separated the Big Elk Creek section out as a state park, developing a plan for that has become a priority in the overall White Clay Creek Preserve project. So that's something I think we should do our best to keep aware of as a township. And I don't know how that's going to affect the connectivity project, because obviously the Mason-Dixon line is at the southern end of both parts of the preserve and just about the entire Big Elk Creek State Park. So it will be nice if we can coordinate some sort of trail work with the state park. And I would assume, at least from the state park's point of view, that they would be perhaps more open to that than a preserve management situation would permit, but we'll have to see.
What's the difference between a preserve and a state park?
So generally, well, first off, there's only one preserve so far as I know in the entire state. And so one big difference is the only preserve we have is pretty much in London, Britain. But as a general broad rule, the intent with a preserve is to have a less developed, more natural area, so that the amount of facilities that would be available, in theory, are probably fewer. The amount of access. State parks can have swimming pools. They can have, not just hiking trails, but boat launches. They're often in the Poconos, you'll find them surrounding reservoirs, so that they are, broadly speaking, they're more recreational than preserves are, in the sense of that greater variety of recreational activities that are available to people who go to state parks.
Did somebody request it, or did the state just decide they wanted to do this?
You mean the separation?
Yeah, is it a separation or is?
Yeah, it's a real separation.
right.
It's going to have, there was an article which I can send you, I can send everybody about it. And it sounds like it's going to have its own park manager who will probably be sort of an assistant manager associated with another park, is what it sounded like. I'm not sure how this came about exactly. What was the driving force or the reason behind it? Jeff, have you heard anything since you're still here? Oh, he's gone on mute. Maybe he stepped away.
I have not heard anything, sir. Sorry about that.
No, that's okay. Yeah, so, but they did at some point have a little ceremony out at the park. You know, I don't really know.
So does that, I mean, I know there was talk of connecting the two, but I think that the fact that they've separated them signals that maybe they're not going to connect the two.
Yeah, I don't know. I think that one reason to at least handle them separately is they are in different watersheds. You know, one embraces much of the Big Elk, and the other one is mostly, at least, in the White Clay watershed. I don't know if a little bit trickles over into the Christiana watershed, or Christina River watershed. Christina. You know, you're asking a good question. And I still think that I would hope that somebody would attempt to create a sort of green belt between the two of them, since I think that that would be useful not only for people who wanted to expand the range of their activities beyond one or the other, but also in terms of connecting both up as something of a unit to Fair Hill, and helping to create something of a wildlife corridor if possible.
Paul, do you know how Franklin Township can speak to them and say that we're interested in being involved, so they don't just, you know, like,
Right.
about us?
So this was kind of on my mind, and I think the solution to this is going to be talking to either the friends as an introduction, talking to see what they can tell us, at least in terms of who to exactly to contact, seeking out the name of the manager or assistant manager. But there are two separate issues. The part that interests me is the development of the sort of master plan for handling the park. And that really is a whole process unto itself. You remember they had the one public meeting, Nan? I believe you attended that on Zoom. And so it would really be trying to figure out who to talk to with respect to that. And I'm not entirely sure, but my guess is that either Susan Moon or Eric, whose last name I can't remember off the top of my head, who are in London, Britain, would have a pretty good idea of who to talk to.
Well,
and then the question, go on.
I know that the Friends of the White Clay feel a little bit like they can't get anything done. For example, a tree fell across behind Lynn Ford's, so you couldn't get into the park off of Appleton Road. And it took many weeks, possibly months, to try to find somebody who would come in and cut it so people could get through. And in the end, what happened is neighbors around me did it because nobody knew who to ask and what to do, including the friends of the White Clay Creek. So everybody's a little bit kind of scratching their head. One thing I thought about, maybe Carolyn Comita, who took Andy Dinman's place, who was
Right.
instrumental on getting the preserve. Maybe I could call that office and say, hey, what do we do? We want to be involved.
Right, so bear with me a sec. I have my computer here. And okay, I have two articles. So Carolyn Comita must have been involved in the creation because she was there for the dedication ceremony. And I'm just looking to see if it mentions. All right, this one doesn't seem to mention who might be managing it. This is 3. Yeah, there are apparently 3 parks that were created at the same time. No, this doesn't mention it either, but I thought I saw something somewhere about, because it seems to me that the question you raise involves 2 issues. One is everyday problems currently, and then having something of a presence in the development of the management plans for the park, since it's now going to be separate from White Clay Creek. So those are 2 different tracks. So I will see who is the ranger and see if I can come up with who is the contact. Because I did read something somewhere about the ranger. I know that the current person in charge of Lexi, I can't remember her last name, White Clay Creek State Park, I believe was sort of attached to, is it Ridley State Park that's further up in the county?
Ridley State Park's near between Westchester and Newtown Square in Ridley.
Ridley Creek, it's state
Yeah,
park.
so
There.
yeah, and
Lexi Rose.
yeah, Lexi Rose. Yeah, so I believe she was attached there, so it's quite possible that the current new manager might be attached to Ridley as well. So there might be information there, and there might be information online about the park, but then it's the management plan that's also an issue. Because obviously, any attempt to expand park access in a significant way is going to impact probably residents, especially who live along Strickersville Road, both in Franklin and in Elk.
Well, also the piece of property right there by me on Appleton Road, that I assume that they're going to make that into a parking lot. across the
No,
street,
yeah, I have no idea what their plans might be. You
Right.
know?
but I mean, it's,
Yeah, so it's true.
It
There
could be.
could be effects on Appleton too.
right.
Um, but there are some sizable,
Jeez. I gotta get rid of this thing. It's telling me to charge it. I'll put it in the car. I can't even shut it off.
okay. Yeah, I'll see what I can find out, you know, because, you know, roughly half the park is in Elk as well. All right,
And New London as well, right?
yeah, but not very much of the land is in New London. If you look at it on the map, it's really just a little bit in the southern part of New London compared to the chunks it occupies in Franklin and Elk. Okay, is there anything else on this topic? Okay, then we'll move on to 896 roadwork and a walkable Kemblesville. And
Paul, I got a question.
sure.
It's actually related to the last topic, but when I was zooming in and zooming out, so there's Google shows the Mount Olivet Cemetery over on Mount Olivet Road,
Right.
but you're talking about the one that's on Flint Hill Road, right?
No, I'm talking about, that's the one I'm talking about. So there are basically there's some remnant building walls and I believe a cellar associated. Have you ever been down there?
Oh, I don't know which one we're talking about.
Mount Olivet.
Not Flint Hill Cemetery.
Not Flint Hill Cemetery, but
Okay. No, I've never been down there.
Oh, well, sometime I can take you down and show you if you want.
Okay.
It's readily accessible if you go down Walker Road and you kind of get into the bottom of the valley where there is the road that's sort of gated off. I think that's
Mount Olivet Road, probably.
I think that's
Yeah, it's Mount Olivet Road.
So you can sort of
Yeah.
pull in there and really it's kind of right above there. You can almost see the building from Old Mount Olivet Road.
Okay, no big deal. I just wanted to get that in my head. Okay.
Yeah, and the
Sorry.
cemetery is right next to the church. So, but it's safer to park down by the Mount Olivet Road than it is to try and pull off on the side of Walker.
I'll be on a mountain bike anyways. It's okay.
Okay, so to get back to 896 and a walkable council, Sarah Beth, I was just wondering if you had anything to say after our extended discussion last time, or any further insights into the progress of
Yeah, I did talk with it's the company that's handling the purchases of the easements and the rights. And they are gonna do how shall I say, they are taking up the hill in front of my house, and I'm basically losing all of my screening, and it is gonna be close to my house. I'm not real thrilled about that, but they're still working on a lot of things. And she gave me a follow-up call about a month ago that, you know, there's still a lot of moving parts, like in terms of moving telephone or electricity poles, things that are still a bit undecided. But she indicated that their plan was to get us an offer and have us paid by early next year, which sounds really ambitious to me, but that's the latest I know on the schedule, at least.
They didn't say anything about when they might be starting construction to you, out of curiosity?
No. I mean, they're supposed to come out and do another appraisal of our property, and they did not give me any timing for that either.
Sarah Beth, I know you're a lawyer, but my taking with the pipeline that came through here is that, what they offer you is not necessarily what you might get. You can negotiate that with them.
Right. Yeah. The package they sent us told us they will pay a certain amount for us to hire an attorney, an engineer, or I forget what the other kind of professional consultant was. So that's something I guess we'll think about more once we see an offer.
Right. You get the offer first. Like
Yeah.
my experience, the second time they came through, I was smarter and I didn't sign it until they dug to my fence.
Ah,
Yeah.
I might like to know what professionals you talk to.
Well, I use Vince Pompo. I use Vince Pompo at Landmacher Lane.
Okay.
He's probably retired, but you need somebody who is a lawyer, as you know. Maybe you could do it. I don't know what kind of law you practice, but a lawyer that does that sort of thing. Because they don't want to have to do eminent domain.
Right.
So they will pretty much give you everything you want. You said you're losing your screening. Well, you can say, I want you to replace the screening and I want you to do this and that. Yeah, you can be really quite, it's just an entity, so don't be shy.
Got it. Yep.
Ask.
Yeah. I appreciate the advice.
Forgive me, but I thought a few years ago we were talking about traffic calming on 896. And I don't see anything with the roundabout or taking Sarah Beth's land or widening the road. It has anything to do with traffic calming, including getting rid of the stop sign at 796 and 896. So I just don't get it, frankly.
I guess it's because I stood up and said, it's dangerous for me to pull into my driveway because there is a dip, in front of our house, and I have to literally stop and wait to see if that's clear before I can pull into my driveway.
Well, it's going to get worse, isn't it?
No,
No,
they're supposed to be flattening it there.
Oh, okay.
I mean,
Well, then I don't know.
my
I just
concern
don't
is
get
that
it.
if the road is flatter and wider, traffic's just going to run faster.
They do now. So how's that
Yeah.
going to? Yeah.
the traffic calming was a local desire. The state has a different desire.
Apparently so.
I think their idea of safety involves having the roads banked so that when you take them at a higher speed, you won't fly off the road.
I just don't see that much. I mean, I go out onto 896 all times of the day, and I just don't see more than, if there's more than 3 cars at the 841 and 896 stop sign, I'm amazed. So I think the 2 stop signs and the 4-way stop took care of that intersection in a good way. But what do I know?
The state was not going to let the stop sign be without.
I guess
Yeah, I remember all
at
that.
least it's not a traffic light. That would be worse.
Uh-huh.
Do we know whether the service that they improved at right there in Campbellsville, so people don't end up like going into the auto repair place and everything? Did that work? Have there been less accidents? Do we know? You know what I'm talking about? They put a footing down that was more like kind of sandpaper a
Right,
couple years ago. Did that work?
Jeff should know.
Yes, it has helped. They did it there at 896 in Appleton, and then what I call Frank Hart's Curve there, which is just north of Parsons Road.
So less accidents?
Less accidents, yes. It has been helpful.
Good.
Okay, so is there anything more on this? If not, I'll move on to the next item. Okay, so I'm going to sort of lump together the website, township history, and the brochure. Sarah Beth, I was supposed to get back to you on this, and I haven't.
No
And so-
problem.
yeah, I know, but you were interested in doing some work on this, and I got caught up in traveling and other stuff, and my wife's surgery. She had a scheduled knee replacement. This is nothing unexpected. So shoot me an email and suggest time to talk.
Okay.
And if you don't hear anything from me, nag me. That generally works. I don't really like being nagged.
All right.
Okay.
Sounds good.
And then we can talk about making some progress on some of this, because I would like to do that, and I could definitely use some help.
All right. Happy to do so.
In terms of talks and training, there is a talk in New London by David Porter on collecting and preserving local history that will take place on November 10th at 7 p.m. at the New London Township Building. And for those of you who are on Facebook and are members, I think, of the Southern Chester County Facebook group, he does a lot of posting of materials that he's acquired there, a lot of postcards mostly, and photographs. He was born in the area and has historic family ties to the London Township, and has been an avid collector of historical materials relating to the area for about 3 decades. So he's going to talk a little bit about himself, his background, his interests, and he's going to be bringing some items for his collection. So if anybody is interested in what he's done and doing something similar, this would be a useful talk to attend.
Paul, he's also going to speak at the West Grove Meeting House.
Yeah, I saw that.
Yeah, I didn't write down the date, but it's in November.
Right. I noticed in the that in the there's a sort of, it's not a typo, but it's a misworded. He's been collecting memorabilia for a lot longer, according to the flyer for that. They haven't collected memorabilia for 3 generations, which for any
Good grief.
which for any living human being is kind of a neat trick.
I want to know what he's taking to.
Yeah, right. I know. He looks pretty. I've seen him. He looks pretty young for his generations. But yeah, I saw that. So that's definitely an option if someone is not able to make it. And that information was also posted on the Southern Chester County memorabilia.
Yeah, I know.
Facebook group. Yeah. I mean, it's an interesting group to join just to see all the postcards. He's got quite a collection, and while a lot of them come from the towns to our north, significantly to our north, like West Grove and or Oxford to our west, occasionally there are postcards that are more local. And then leaping ahead a few months, in March, Karen Marshall will talk about some aspect, that's not defined yet, of the book that she is writing on her father's military service in World War II. And it should be an interesting talk. She's a good speaker, and she will have done a lot of work on the book before then, so she'll have something to say. And interesting thing about her father is that he was with a unit that I don't think captured is probably the right word. Secured is probably a better word. Himmler's residence, and he ended up with one of the 2 volumes of Himmler's personal copy of one of the Mein Kampf, which the Karen Marshall's family later donated to the Holocaust Museum in New York, which had received the other volume from another family whose father had served in the military. So she in her book, she talks a bit about that. She also devotes a large portion of her book to what is essentially her father's wartime journal. And for the period of time when her father was moving in and out of the European theater, she includes firsthand accounts from other soldiers in the unit, and all of these journals or records, firsthand accounts that she's using are drawn from previously unpublished. I don't know, what would you call it, manuscripts. So if she manages to get this out, it will add a little more to the published record on World War II, which would be nice. So she should have an interesting story, but that's going to be the second Thursday in March, also at 7 p.m. in New London. And then finally, you may or may not have noticed, or may have tried not to notice, but I did send out an email about the Chester County Historic Preservation Network training that is coming up. Is the 12th a Saturday?
No. Let me think. Oh, maybe.
Yeah, it is. Yeah,
I'm sorry.
I believe it's on the 12th.
Okay.
In any case, although I haven't yet signed up, I will probably be going. And so if anybody else would like to go, I could carpool.
That's Government Services Building, isn't it? Where the
I think
meeting
it
is?
was.
Yeah.
I can.
I looked at that. It's not the museum this time.
Yeah, so an important thing to know about the Government Services Building is if you go, you have to pass through a metal detector. So if you habitually walk around with a pocket knife in your pocket, remember to leave it in the car. So you won't have to walk back to the car and take it out of your pocket, as someone I know once had to do. Let's see here if I can find that.
Yeah, I don't remember what the topics are.
Let's see here, CCHPN, all workshop. For some reason, they're relying on an image, and now the image link appears to be broken. In any case, you can register until November 8th. And let's see if
I'll have to
find it
look
on my
at it and see
phone.
if I want to go. There's also something at Oxford coming up. I meant to write that down and I forgot. At the Oxford Historical Society that's probably on their Facebook page.
Yeah, let's see.
They have a speaker. Might be Bruce Mowdy about his new book.
It wasn't Gene Pisala.
Oh, maybe it is. Maybe that's who it is.
I should have it in, I can look in here. Mhm. Hmm. not seeing it. Yeah, so Oxford is doing, no, that one's occurred. That was October 11th. I don't think I have one for more recent one.
There's no one to know. Well, we'll look on their Facebook page, see if there's one for November. I don't remember.
So the events, let's see, this is, yeah, it starts at 8:30 in the morning on November 12th.
Okay.
And so it's going to, the talks are going to be about design guidelines for historical resources and successful recruitment and retention strategies. So it, to some degree, it's probably more pertinent to the HARB.
Yeah.
Although the focus is more on a organizational management type issues rather than topics about, as they often have, about specific stuff, but like individual buildings or that sort of thing. So
You'll have to read the blurb again.
yeah.
So you don't have anything for Oxford?
I don't have anything. No, I don't have anything for Oxford, but I don't know if there might be something on their website.
I'll try and look and share that if I see anything.
Okay. And then, are there any other talks that anybody would like to mention, bring up? Okay. So then the last thing on the agenda concerns revisions to the historic district ordinance, and I've been in talking with Jeff and Dave Hoffman, who chairs the Planning Commission, about making these tweaks. To my chagrin, I discovered that the building and structures issue is perhaps a little more pervasive in the ordinance than I thought it was. So we may have to talk about whether other sections of the ordinance need looking at for that, but basically those are all minor changes. But I was supposed to get something back to Jeff and Dave. I was hoping late Sunday. It's taking longer than that with all the stuff I've got going on. So Chuck, you'll be thrilled to know that this will be coming your way on the Planning Commission eventually as well.
Yep.
And I might just sort of bounce an idea or two, a question or two off of you concerning all the references to buildings elsewhere in the ordinance, which sometimes are building and structures and sometimes are just buildings.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Ultimately, I think it may come down to getting a lawyer's opinion on this too. Although, yeah. So that's all I have to say on that. Does anybody have any new business items that aren't on the agenda they wish to bring before the Historical Commission / HARB? Okay, well, hearing none, I'll call for public comment, and expecting to hear none with respect to that, we can go ahead and adjourn at 8 o'clock and make it a relatively short evening. So
Is that a motion?
no, we never adjourn with a motion.
Oh, okay. What do I?
Well, I know some folks do and some
Can I hear a
folks don't.
motion to adjourn? Okay,
Yeah,
I'll
you-
make a motion to
You
adjourn.
want to make a motion? to
Sure.
adjourn? Sure, I'll second that. All right, well.
What if we don't vote? What if we don't vote positively for that?
Uh-oh. Then we'll hang around and chat.
If you don't vote positively for that, then I'll suspect you of being a sort of slightly masochistic glutton for punishment.
Yeah.
All right. I wish you all a good night. And if we don't have, any urgent business, we probably won't be meeting again until our organizational meeting in January. So if I don't see any of you, I hope you have an enjoyable Thanksgiving and, nice Christmas or whatever holiday you might be celebrating, and Happy New Year.
Very good.
Same to you.
Thanks, same to you.
Thank you.
Right.
All right.
Bye.
Well,